Okay, so when you open Maya, this is the default screen. This is what you should see. If your screen looks different, go up to the top right corner and change your workspace to modeling standard. This is the first step on the pipeline, and we will learn the basic tools to modeling. So now you should know the basic tools of Maya, which is selection, move, rotate, and scale. And we will just make do with those and a couple more. If you learn these basic tools in Maya, you can probably model in any other software if you learn the same tools. So we have our navigation tools, and we have our selection, move, and rotate tools. If you notice, when you mouse over, it displays the shortcut of the tool on that little info window. So rotate is E, scale is R, and move is W, and selection is Q. You're probably wondering why these random letters instead of the initials of the tool themselves, like S for scale or R for rotate. The reason is because if you keep your hand on the Q or your pinky finger on the Q on the keyboard, you'll have all those tools on your four fingers without having to move your hand or look down at the keyboard. So if you hit the Q on the keyboard, you'll get the selection tool, W, the move, E, rotation, and R for scale. And if you hit by mistake the wrong one, you can just cycle through your fingers and get the right tool. Also, if you look down at the bottom left, you'll see I'm displaying what keys I'm hitting on the keyboard. So you can see what I'm doing. So the first thing we're going to do is just create a cube. So if you look on the top, there's a shelf here, and it has a few basic shapes you can use. We're just going to click on one of the cubes, and a cube will show up. So if I look at the cube, I already know how to navigate. So if you haven't memorized it yet, I suggest you put a sticky note on your screen so you can look down on it and remember the shortcuts. So it's Alt to rotate, Alt left drag, Alt middle mouse to pan, Alt middle mouse and drag to pan, Alt right mouse drag to zoom in and slow and zoom out slow, depending on which way you're dragging. And you can also use the wheel by itself, the mouse wheel, to zoom in and out a little bit faster. Okay, so one thing I'm going to ask from you is that when you use either the move, rotate, or scale tool, that you only use it on one of the axes. And this causes a lot of problem. The 3D space can be kind of confusing. If you are moving an object and you pick the middle or the center square here, that object is going to move on all directions, and it's kind of hard to gauge which way it's going because it's working with the direction of the screen, the direction you're looking at it. So if I move it this way, I might think I'm going on a straight line on the Z axis, but if I move the camera around, you'll see my cube is moved a little bit back on the X axis also. Alright, so we're going to try to stick at moving with one axis only. So you just click, when you want to move the cube, you just click on one axis and move only on that single axis, or two axes at the same time. So if I look at these planes between the X and Z axis, you'll see I can move in two axes, but I'm not moving the cube up and down. So don't make the mistake of moving things from the center of the tool, because that will move in all directions and you cannot gauge by just looking at it which direction it's going until you turn the camera around and you see that it's moved in another direction that you didn't intend to move at first. So also, if you make a mistake at this point, I'm going to suggest that you right click and hold down on your object and change to object mode and just delete your object and start over. At this point, it will be a lot easier to just start over. Our model is going to be simple enough than rather to try to fix it and spend hours trying to fix it. Okay, so I'm going to start over. I'm going to click on a cube, And the first tool that I want to learn, that is not these basic ones, is called Extrude. So Extrude creates a face where you have an existing face, giving you more geometry. So I can distort this object as I want it, but at some point I need more geometry. I need, like, if I wanted more detail in here, I need more geometry to create more detail. So when you need more faces, you use Extrude to create more faces. So again, if you make a mistake, just select your object in object mode and just hit delete. So there's two modes that you can edit your object here. The first one is object mode, which we've been using so far. The second one is component mode. So components are all the components that make this 3D shape. And this goes back to your geometry classes. So if you think about it, there's a face. Or if you think about it, there is points, which in Maya they're called vertex. So these are vertex. Vertex by another vertex makes a line, and lines, this is a line of dots. And Maya they're called edges. So this is an edge. So a line is just a line of points or vertex, and in Maya those are called edges. So this is an edge. When you have a few lines put together, you have a face. So you can be editing your object in two ways. You can either edit a face, or you can be editing the whole object as a whole together, right? So don't forget that difference. And anytime you want to switch between the two, you right click and select what you want to edit, either the whole object or a vertex mode, edge mode, or face mode. You can at the same time use the modeling toolkit, which will be open if you click on this little icon here. It looks like a mallet with a cube by it. If you click on it, it will show you the same mode. So here's object mode, here's vertex mode, here's edge mode, and face mode. Okay, so now we're going to create our little truck here by using Extrude. So as I mentioned, we can only edit this cube so much. There's only so many things you can do with it and to change it. So to create a track here, let me just, again, let's say we made a mistake. We're just gonna select it as an object, hit delete, and start over. So I'm gonna create a new cube here, and it's clean, and I know it's center on the middle. So we're going to use Extrude. So Extrude will create a new face or new geometry where you have something selected. So let's go into face mode and select one of these faces, and you will see a shortcut for Extrude up here. But I prefer the keyboard shortcuts because it's a little quicker. The shortcut for Extrude is Control E. So when you hit Control E, and please only hit it once, don't hit it more than once, you'll have a bunch of faces on top of each other. That's exactly what will happen. You will create a new face on top of the one you have existing there. So if you drag on the blue arrow here on the Z axis and pull it, you will see you have a new face. So let's do it on the top here and try to make the basic shape for our truck. So I'm going to select the face on top, hit Control E again, and pull on the blue axis or the blue arrow here. And this is going to be the cabin of the truck. Let's go on the back of the cube. Click on the face, Control E. This is the back of the truck or the bed. And I have the basic shape for the truck now. You will see that the Extrude tool looks like all the tools combined in one. So you will know immediately if you have an extrusion there, because your tool changes from just the regular move or the regular rotate or scale tool, to all of the tools combined in one. And if you happen to want to use one of the other tools, you know, when you're extruding, when I'm moving this face out of the surface, you just have to click on it. Let's say I wanted to scale this face. You will see the center part of that tool shows up. Or if I click on the circle, all the rotation axes show up, or axi show up. And if I click on the arrow, the center of the move tool shows up. Okay, so you have to try to put your mouse right on the blue arrow, which will pull the face straight out from the face you have already there. So with this, we have the basic shape of our truck. It's just a little too tall and too, I don't know, kind of distorted. So we're going to adjust it. So we could go back into object mode by right mouse clicking and holding and selecting object mode, or also you can click in here to select object mode, and we could scale it to make it have more proportions like a truck. So I'm just using scale, you know, flattening it with the y-axis, making it a tad wider with the x-axis. And yours, it might be facing the other direction. You just use the right axis. And now that we have kind of the proportions we want, we can go back into component mode. Let's say we wanted to make the cabin a little more aerodynamic, like the windshield going back. Let's go into edge mode, select this edge, and switch over to the move tool. You can click in here or hit W like I just did, and grab this edge and push it back on a single axis. Remember, you don't want to move from here, because if you do, you know, this looks okay from this angle of the camera, but when I go rotate the camera here, my truck is being distorted. So that, I don't want that to happen to me. So again, I'm going to undo that. You only want to select one axis and move. So I'm going to push that axis back. Maybe I can make the hood a little more aerodynamic. Move the tip of the hood down. There we go. So I just push it down, and the single axis that goes up and down. Let's say the bottom of the truck is too tall. So we could select all these faces here and push them up a little bit. I'm going to go into face mode, select the first face, hold shift, click on the second one, holding shift, click on the third one. And now I can just move them up to, yeah, that's fairly close. I think that the cabin might be a little too long, and same with the bed. We're going to just adjust it a little bit. I'm going to go into vertex mode by right mouse holding down on my model and changing to vertex, and I'm going to select this vertex back here and this one's here. So I'm just clicking and dragging over my selection, and I hold shift to add more points to that selection. If you want to deselect some points, you can hold shift or control drag over the points you want to get rid of. But I'm just holding shift here and selecting the other points that I want. So I have those points selected. I could adjust this, maybe just marquee and drag over the back points and move those over a little bit. So there is the basic shape. It's already starting to look like a truck. So you can get as detailed as you want. I think I'm gonna select the face here on top and hit the scale tool, which the shortcut is R, or you can select it from here. And in this case, I want the whole face to become smaller. So I'm going to use the middle cube here. That will make the whole face smaller. It cannot scale up and down because a polygon does not have any thickness. So I'm just going to scale it down a little bit to make that face smaller. Yeah, that looks more like a truck cabin, the top of it. So now the truck bed, I need more geometry to create the truck bed. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to extrude again. So I'm going to hit Control E. And I want to scale or inset that face in. So I have an edge here. So I know I have an extra face there because my tool is changed to the Extrude tool. So remember, when you hit Control E, you immediately get a face right on top of the other one. So I want to scale this face in to make an inset. So I could scale with this plane here, but I don't know if I'm either moving or scaling. So if I want to make sure I'm in scale mode, I just have to click on one of the cubes for scaling. And you'll see the middle cube shows up, which we know is for scaling. So now if I drag on the middle cube here, you'll see my face insetting. You may be going this way. If you see black flickering faces, it's always not good. So make sure you're going the right direction here. If you see a lot of black flickering faces on your model, again, right click, select the object and just hit delete. And you may think, oh no, what did you do? But you will realize after doing it a couple times, you'll be a lot faster. So I'm just gonna go fast here so you can see how easy this is. So I'm gonna hit Control E, extrude my face out, Control E, extrude my face out, Control E, extrude my track bed here, change back to object mode, scale it to the proportions I want. Well, I think that's pretty good. Go back to component mode by right clicking and holding, and let me just adjust this. And right now I'm pretty close to what I have. Maybe this is a little long again, so I'm gonna go into vertex mode, marquee over the points I want to adjust, move them up a little bit, select this edge, push it back like I did before, push this one down, grab this face on the very top, hit R to scale it, and we're basically back where we left off, right? That didn't take very long at all. So having to restart, you know, an art is actually a good thing for you. It makes you faster and gives you practice. I know it seems like contradicting, but it is true actually. So we're gonna make this track bed again. So if you missed it, pay attention now. We're gonna hit Control E one time only. Make sure you only extrude one time every time. So we want to scale this face to inset it. So we don't see all of the Extrude tool here. So we're gonna click on one of the cubes. It doesn't matter which one. Just do not drag on it. Just click on it. The middle of the extrude of the scale tool will show up. We're gonna scale it in, and then we need to leave this edge here, and we also want to have a bottom of the bed. So we're going to extrude one more time, which will leave this edge in here, this edge loop, and we're gonna push our new face down. So when we push our new face down, there's the track bed. And we have our basic shapes. So for now, extruding is getting us, you know, if we were to think about this as a shape, it looks pretty close to a truck. But we still need more geometry. Like we need more detail in here, maybe on the door here. Maybe you wanted to extrude a bumper, or you could make a new cube and scale it here to be the bumper. But we need, the main thing we're missing is the wheel wells. So for that, we're gonna use our next most common use tool, which is cut. And cut is located up here, multi-cut tool. Or also, you will see all the tools here on mostly these menus here, which are mesh, edit mesh, or mesh tools. So if you look at edit mesh, there's extrude right there. It has the same symbol the shortcut on the shelf has up here. So where did it go? Here it is. So there's our extrude shortcut. It has the same symbol. Or in our case, we've just been using the shortcut, which is Control E. You can also use it on the modeling toolkit. The most used tools are right here. So there's Extrude. Here's the multi-cut tool, or you see it up here too. So we're going to click on it, and when you click on it, you'll see your mouse change to a little knife, and it seems like something weird is happening with your model. Don't worry, your model is not getting cut. What is happening is the tool is just asking you what you want to cut next. So it's asking you, do you want to cut this point here on the corner? Do you want to cut this line that I'm highlighting? Nothing's getting cut until you click. And to use the cut tool, there's only two things you have to remember. You have to start in either a point or a line to cut. You can't start on the middle of the face. That's why it's trying to snap to the corner here. So I'm going to start on the line here at the bottom, and I'm going to click and click up and kind of draw a wheel here. So just by clicking. And then the other rule is that you need to finish your cut in either a point or a line. So I'm going to finish my cut at the bottom again on this line. If you notice, you can drag your point if you hold the mouse. When you click, instead of releasing, if you hold down, you can move your point around. Or if you put it on the wrong spot, you can hit the backspace on your keyboard and redraw your points. You know, I didn't like those points, so I'm gonna hit the backspace and then click again to make new points, and then end at the bottom. To end the cut, you can hit enter on your keyboard, or right mouse button will also complete the cut. So I just hit right mouse button, my cut is complete, and now I have a cut there for the wheel well. So what can I do with this cut? You guessed it, we can extrude it in, right? So to get rid of the knife, you know, it's gonna be still selected here, it's gonna be holding it, trying to cut stuff. What you can't do is hit Q or the arrow on your keyboard, the selection tool, or any of the other tools in that matter. But we're just gonna hit the selection tool. I'm just gonna hit Q, and now the knife is dropped. So I don't have it bugging me, I have the selection tool. So I'm gonna select this face and extrude it in. So now I have my wheel well for the truck. And for now, this face is on the bottom. I have the extrude tool here selected, so I'm gonna hit Q to get rid of the extrude tool. This black flickering faces at the bottom here, for now we're just going to delete them. So I just deleted the one face here that was there before, and we're gonna select this face that the extrude made, and we are also going to delete it. So there's the front wheel well. We're gonna do the same on the back. We're gonna grab the knife one more time. It's up here or down here. The shortcut is Control-Shift-X. I like shortcuts, so I'm gonna use the shortcut. You can see it down here on the bottom left. So I'm gonna start on the line again. Click up here and click up to make the wheel well on the back. And remember, we have to end on a line, so I'm gonna end it on the line and right click to complete the cut. Hit Q to get rid of the knife so it's not bugging me here, or I can go and grab the selection tool. Select this face, extrude it in. Control E will extrude our face. So I'm going to push that face in and grab, hit Q to drop the extrude tool. And I'm going to delete this face that was there before, and I'm going to delete this face that the extrude created. So just hit delete on your keyboard to get rid of those faces. I don't know why that line went so far back. Maybe I made a mistake. So I'm gonna move that edge. Gonna select that edge here and hit W to move it, and I'm just gonna move it on the Z axis a bit so it's not so far back. So there is our two wheel wells. So this is looking more and more like a truck. Now we could do the same thing on the other side. We could, you know, go and cut the same wheel wells on the other side, but because we're doing it by hand with the knife, we may not land on the same spot. We might put the wheel well in this side kind of forward or farther back and not realize it. So rather than trying to line it up by hand, I'm just gonna cut the whole truck. So if you look on the left side of the screen, there's layouts for the windows. Right now I'm looking at the window on perspective view. If you hit the second button down, you'll see 4 views. So now I can see my truck from the front, the side view, and I'm just using the mouse wheel to zoom in on the view, and on the top view. On the top view, I'm going to hold my mouse here on this view and hit spacebar. Oh, and my spacebar on this keyboard doesn't work. There it is. So now I'm seeing that whole that window full screen. So now that I'm looking at the truck from the front, I'm going to cut half of the truck and mirror to the other side, so I don't have to do the same work, and I will know for sure both sides will line up. So I'm going to grab the knife again, and if you cut outside the truck on the back, so I'm clicking outside of it, not on the truck, I'm going to click on the outside on this center line, this thicker black center line, and then go on the front and click also outside of the truck. Then I'm going to right click to complete the cut. Now my whole truck is cut from front to back all the way, and if I hit the spacebar and go back on my perspective view and hit the spacebar again to have it full screen, I see my cut goes all the way from the top to the bottom faces. So I'm going to select these faces now on the right side of the truck, my left, to delete them. Oh, let me go in face mode here. So you can either right mouse button, say face, face component, marquee, select over them. Make sure I don't have anything else selected by mistake that I don't want to delete. And I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. Now I have half the truck. Okay, so we're going to mirror it to the other side. And mirror is pretty simple. You usually want to be on object mode. And if you look up here, there's these 2 orange cubes separated by the dotted line. That's the mirror tool. I'm going to click on it. If you don't see it up here, you'll see it on mesh, mirror. It's the same. And now my truck is mirrored. But as you see, it's kind of merging the points at the bottom. So it kind of looks like a boat. So the mirror has a few options that we want to adjust. The first one is cut geometry. In this case, we're going to turn that off. Cut geometry kind of eats the object into itself. You know, if you go past the middle of the center of the object. We don't want to do that, so we're going to turn it off. The offset is basically where the mirror is placed. If you grab this, you're kind of adjusting the offset of the mirror. So it gives you a wider truck or a thinner truck. The axis is the way the mirror is working. So right now it's mirroring X on the X direction, so side to side. I could have it mirror on the wrong direction here, mirroring up and down. You know, that's not what I want, obviously. So let me change it back to X mode, X direction. The other problem I have is trying to merge the borders, which I do want. I do want both halves of the truck to be merged together, so they're one object, but I don't want it to merge the bottom of it. So the merge the border has a threshold of how far out it's looking for points to merge. So it should be looking at these points on the middle to merge, you know, and you see it's trying to look for points to merge with. So when I get about this close, you know, it's merging the points that are close here on the faces that are closest to the other half. But if I get closer, it starts looking for more points to merge, like this ones and this one's at the bottom. So we're going to we're going to reduce the threshold of the merge. So see, just going down a little bit, fix my problem, and still merging the wheel wells. So let's see if we can go a little lower. There it is. So now I have one complete truck, and it's that simple. So I'm gonna hit Q to get rid of the mirror, and now you could add a couple more things here. You could add another cube, kind of place it in the front if you wanted to, and scale it to make the bumper if you want to get detail here. You could add a couple cylinders to add your wheels. So with the cylinders, when they show up, they're facing the wrong way. They're like the circle is facing up or down. We can't rotate it by hand and try to put it on its side like this. The problem is that you never know if it's exactly on its side. So to fix that, there's an option here which is on the top right. It's called the channel box. The channel box will show you anything you've done to the object you have selected, as far as moving it, rotating it, and scaling it. So right now it's showing me that I haven't moved it or I haven't rotated it except for the Z-axis. So if you see when I rotate it on the Z-axis, you see that axis is updating here. So that will help me set the rotation angle exactly at 90 degrees. So I can just type it in here, 90. And now I know this cylinder is exactly on its side. So now that I have it on its side, I can scale it flatter, like from top to bottom. Kind of move it out of the way, I guess. Make it a little smaller. The one thing you have to watch for cylinders, and I see this problem very often, is when people try to scale it, they go one axis at a time, and that usually distorts your cylinder. And I'm exaggerating here. It distorts your cylinder, the round part of your cylinder, and students try to get it back by hand, and it never works. You can never get it exactly round again. You can't fix it in here. If you do, you want two axes to be the same. In this case, the Z and X axis. So on the scale. So I'm gonna make this to 0.3. Oh, I did the Y axis accidentally. I'm gonna make them all the same. So now I know this is perfectly round because the Z and the X axis are the same. And now you can, scale the width of it. Another thing you can do to maintain the roundness of the cylinder is just use this plane on the middle. This plane will move two axes at the same time. So you see, I'm scaling on the X and Z axis at the same time by using the plane that's between the two axes, the X and Z. So that way you don't have to worry about your cylinder distorting. You could also use the center cube. The problem is that it will also scale on the Y axis. So it's easier to use just the plane between the two axes to scale on two axes. And then just adjust the height with the Y axis. Now we have our wheel. We can just place it here. It's still a little big, so I'm going to scale the whole thing down. And this is when it gets confusing placing things, and that's why I choose to move on one axis at the time or two axes at the time, so you know that the wheel is not moving up and down. It's just moving on the X and Z, the Z and X. But it's still, because we're in 3D space, it's pretty confusing to see where the wheel is. If I pass through the object, oh, I know now where it is. But to line it up, it gets kind of confusing. That's when our orthographic views are useful. So if I hit the orthographic views here, and then hit F on the keyboard on top of my view, the camera is gonna focus on my object. So there it is. I hit F. Now I'm gonna, with the mouse wheel, I'm gonna back up a little bit. Same in here, I'm gonna hit F, back up a little bit. And here I think I can see fairly good. So now I can line up my object a little bit better, because I don't have perspective on these views to distract me. So I know the wheel needs to be lower, and I know the wheel needs to go in the truck wheel well. Right there. So I have one wheel set up. All I need to do now is duplicate it to the back. So Control D will duplicate your wheel. You don't want to use copy and paste because that will create a group. So just use Control D to duplicate objects, or you can go Edit, Duplicate, and that will keep your scene cleaner. So there it is. You could grab these two wheels and do a mirror to the other side again. So I'm gonna hit mirror here. See what happens. There it is. There's my mirror wheels. So little by little this truck is coming along, and just by using cut and extrude, you're pretty close to the end result you want. So if you learn these basic tools, cut, extrude, and in this case we also use mirror to cheat a little bit, you know, you're pretty much 80% of the way there.